Hi, I'm Scott. I design, build, and repair woodworking pieces. I'm opening up the doors to my shop to help you become a better woodworker. This is part of a video series where we're showing you videos on how to spray paint. We've got one video on how to mix paint for a paint sprayer, another video on a spray paint booth. In this video, we're going to answer questions from two of our viewers around what air cap set do you use or what tip to use on your paint sprayer. They watched the video on how to spray paint a staircase and wainscoting, and they'd seen me using this HVLP sprayer. To answer that question, it's not that simple. You need to understand the finish you're using and the air cap set that you're using on your HVLP sprayer. So because of that, I'm going to demonstrate for you 3 different air cap sets and 2 different paints so you can see the results for yourself. Before I do though, let me talk about my experience spray finishing. My first paint sprayer is this Wagner 1800 PSI. I used this in a basement renovation contest where I sprayed the wainscoting, the fireplace, bookshelves, and doors. My second experience with an airless system was a Triton. That Triton unit we used for painting columns in a shop that were put on front porches. My third experience is training with a professional sprayer. This finisher taught me how to spray with an HVLP conversion gun. And you see some of that footage in the video about how to produce a quality fireplace. That's a quality piece of furniture, and I was very happy with that finish. So I decided to purchase my own system, and I bought a Fuji Spray HVLP system. And this is a Mini-Mite 3. This is the turbine that drives the air through the spray gun. And this is what I'm going to use to show you the different air cap sets and how they perform with 2 different finishes. Here are the 3 air cap sets I have for my sprayer. I've got a 1.3, a 1.5, and a 1.8 millimeter. Each of them has an air cap and a needle and a fluid nozzle. And I'll show you the difference between the large and the small fluid nozzles. Here you can see the size of the openings. The way this works is the needle sits inside the fluid nozzle, and as it's pulled out, it allows more fluid to come out. And the air cap controls the airflow around the nozzle. These get installed on the spray gun by putting on the fluid nozzle first and tightening it down so nothing leaks. Then putting on the air cap, and finally putting in the needle in the back with the fluid adjusting knob. The 2 paints I'm going to use are both Benjamin Moore. The first one is Advance, which is recommended to me by my pro finisher. This has got excellent leveling capabilities and really good for spraying. The second is Natura. I use this one painting the walls of my house because it's got 0 VOCs, which means it doesn't create indoor air pollution. So I'm going to try spraying that one as well. Before laying down the black Advance paint, what I'm doing here is putting on a couple coats of primer to make sure I've got a good level surface to start with. Although the Advance has a good leveling capability, it's too thick to spray coming out of the can. You can see here how the paint just sort of sits on top and slowly melds into the paint. This is what you don't want. This is the paint viscosity you're looking for. You can see our video on how to do that. The first thing I do before I paint is I hang up a piece of paper on my spray booth. This allows me to have a surface that I can spray and test to make sure I've got the right settings on the spray gun. It's a matter of making sure, first of all, you've got the right fan width, but then adjusting both the air and the fluid nozzle so you end up with an optimal spray. After 3 coats of paint, let's look at the results. For the 1.8 millimeter, this is a board that when you look at the surface in the reflected light, you start to see some texture. And on the surface, you'll see something that looks a little bit like an eggshell or orange peel. And this is not ideal for a spray finish. This is something you could do probably with a paint roller. If we look at the 1.5 millimeter, you'll see a smoother surface, one that has less texture on it and reflects the light much better. As I looked through across the surface, I did notice an imperfection though, and that's where I overlapped a little bit too much with the paint. So you can tell the difference here between 2 different air cap sets and the same finish. One is smoother, one is more rough. So let's take a look at the third. The 1.3 millimeter air cap set gave a very different finish than the first 2. This one, you can actually see the flaws in my priming in that you can see the wood grain through it. And what that's telling me is there's a much finer finish on this. This is the type of finish that I can build up layer over layer to get the thickness I want, but a really smooth finish. So this is clearly the winner, but I'm going to show you this further by putting more coats of paint on it. Before I do, let's look at the Natura paint. This is a paint that doesn't have those extra leveling capabilities that the Advanced does. So let's see how well it sprays with the 3 different air cap sets. First, I thin down the viscosity so I've got the right thickness of paint that I can spray. When I'm setting up my spray gun, the first thing I need to do is adjust the pattern, and that is the width of the spray. So I can either spray really wide or I can spray really narrow. And for the work that I'm doing here on these small test boards, I'm just using a medium spray, and that allows me to do a couple passes on them and see how the overlapping is working. The next thing I do is adjust the airflow and the fluid. It's a balancing act between having too much air or too little air and too much fluid or not enough fluid. So that's what the test paper's for, is to make sure I can set up the gun exactly the way I want it for each spray. For this test, I didn't prime the boards, I just went straight to the paint. I think this will give me enough of an indication once I get a few layers on of how well the paint's going. After light sanding and 2 more coats of paint, let's take a look at the results. Here on the 1.3mm, we've got a surface that looks similar to what we were seeing on the 1.8mm with the Advanced paint. We've got some orange peel eggshell look here at the top, and not a very good surface at all. Now let's look at the 1.5mm. On this one, you can see the texture is still a little there, but less than what we were seeing before. It's not as pronounced. Looking at the 1.8 air cap set, you can see here, this one too has a slight bit of texture to it. So I'm not sure whether the 1.8 or the 1.5 is the best air cap set for this paint. So what I'm going to do is sand them down and shoot another 3 sprays and see how they compare to each other. When I sand a finish, I stay away from regular garnet sandpaper and go with a more advanced non-clogging sandpaper. I've got a sanding block, and what I do is just apply that around here and then go through and sand with the grain. And here are the results. This is the 1.8mm air cap set. When I look at the reflection here, I see a little bit of texturing, something that wasn't as pronounced before, but a little bit more now. If I look at the 1.5mm air cap set, here you can see much less texture in it, but there still is a bit of a pattern. So while the 1.5 works best for the Natura, the 1.3 was working better for the Advance. Let's take a look at the Advance after putting a few more coats of paint on it. I gave the board a quick sanding and then put on a coat of paint. And I'm showing you this so you can see each layer as it goes on. You can see there's a little bit of sheen in this, but not much. On the second coat, this one's got more sheen, and you can see those voids starting to get filled in. Unfortunately, my prime job was really bad on this, so you're still seeing some of that. This is the third coat, and you can see how well it's filling in. So I'm going to give it one more heavy coat, and then I'm going to let you watch it and see how it levels out as it dries. I got a few dust particles that spoiled this, so I'm going to give it one more sanding and one more coat. But you can see here, it's really built up well. Now don't stop watching yet, I've got a surprise for you. This is what the finish looks like, but I'm going to show you from a very steep angle what a quality finish looks like. This is the end of the panel, and you can see the quality of the finish. This shows you if you match the right air cap set with the right finish, you can get really, really good results. This is a finish I'm proud of. Please leave a comment on this video. We'd love to hear your feedback. Until next time, enjoy your time in the wood shop.